Dear students, good morning. Today we will start about the concept of demand and its related concept. So let me write that we will discuss about demand and its determinants. So basically we will discuss about demand. What is demand? Here we will discuss about what is demand, how it comes, what is the actual meaning of demand, what is the function of demand, and what is the demand function, and what is the determinants, what are the factors that really influence the demand. So you will be, before going to the concept, you should know actually what is the actual meaning of demand in economics. Demand in economics means desire for a commodity. Demand in economics is different. Demand in ordinary language is different. Simply we can say that we demand a commodity, but that is not the actual demand in economics. You should understand. Demand in economics is different. Demand in simple sense it is different. When you talk about demand in economics, it means desire for a commodity. So when you talk about demand in economics specially refers to desire for a commodity. Desire for a commodity in the sense when we expect something, when you think about something, when you think about a good, when you expect about a good, that is called demand in economics. So demand in economics refers to desire for a commodity. But that is not the actual meaning of, that is not the entire meaning of demand. Demand means desire for a commodity, but that is not the complete meaning of demand. Demand means desire for a commodity supported or backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. So willingness to pay and capacity to pay are the two important terms related to demand. Unless and until the two terms cannot be fulfilled, for example, a person when he expects something, when he desires something, the willingness to pay and capacity to pay must be there. For example, a person is having willingness to pay. For example, a beggar, a street beggar, he is having willingness to pay, but he doesn't have the capacity to pay. He doesn't have the ability to pay. Capacity means ability to pay. Capacity means it is the ability to pay. Willingness to pay means your desire to pay. So a demand cannot be fulfilled in case of a beggar because a street beggar, has willingness to pay but capacity to pay is not there. Similarly, if we talk about a miser or a conjure, miser have your ability to pay is there, but he doesn't have the willingness to pay. So neither we can fulfill demand in case of a miser, nor we can fulfill demand in case of a beggar. So from the example, it is very clear. Demand means desire for a commodity backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. So a person who has both willingness to pay and capacity to pay, only we can say that demand can be fulfilled in such a situation. That is called demand in economics. This is the actual meaning of demand. So let me tell you very clearly, demand starts when you expect something. Demand starts when you desire something. So demand starts from the point when you think about some commodity, when you think about a goods, but its fulfillment is subject to the condition of willingness to pay and capacity to pay. जब आपके पास दोनों चीज रहता है, willingness to pay and capacity to pay, then only आप demand fulfill कर पाते हो. So demand in economics means desire for a commodity supported by or backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. Let me write the sentence. Demand means desire for a commodity backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. This is the actual meaning of demand in economics. The demand means Desire for a commodity backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. This is the actual meaning of demand in economics. So we can also say demand is the quantity, demand is the amount, demand is the quantity purchased by the consumer. Just let me tell you that demand is a part of consumer. Demand is a part belong to the consumer. Consumer, as you told, who are consumers? All of us are consumer. We belong to our group. Our group is known as consumer. Consumers are the persons who consume something every day in their day-to-day life. They have the intention, they have the objective that to consume something and to get maximum satisfaction. So to understand the demand concept of demand very clearly, you should have some little idea that demand is a part of the consumption, demand is a part of the consumer, and supply is a part of the producer. Demand is a part of the consumers and supply is a part of the producer. So now you are clear, demand is a part of the consumer. Who are consumers? We are consumers. Why we are consumers? Because we consume something in our day-to-day life. So when you consume something, when we use some items in our day-to-day life, then there definitely there must be a goal, definitely there must be an objective for that. So you should understand that the objective, the aim, the purpose of a consumer, rational consumer, a normal consumer is to get maximum satisfaction. So now you should understand demand, which is a part of the consumption, which is a part of the consumer. Consumer have the objective in the mind that they must get maximum satisfaction. So now we'll study how it works. The activity of consumption, the role of the consumer, the aim of the consumer must be satisfied through this, because demand is purely a part of the consumer and supply is a part of the producer. So now I told the aim, the purpose, the objective of a consumer is to get maximum satisfaction, is to derive maximum satisfaction. This is the meaning of that of purpose. So now we have discussed about demand. Demand refers to the quantity purchased by the consumer with the sole indicators that willingness to pay and capacity to pay. Now let us move to discuss about your demand function. When you talk about demand function, we can write demand function. It is a function of price of the commodity, price of the related commodity. We can also write income of the persons. We can also write taste and preference. We can also write population. We can also write your demonstration effect. So demand of a commodity is a function of price of X, price of related commodity, income, taste and preference, population, demonstration effect, and some other factors. Now we are going to discuss that we have completed what is demand. Now we will discuss what is demand function. So demand function, literally demand function means the functional relationship between demand and its factors. You understood? Demand function. Now we are moving to our next segment, that is your demand function. Demand function means it is a functional relationship. You should understand. In course of time, we will study many functions. Like that, we are studying demand function. Demand function means it expresses the functional relationship between demand of the commodity and the price of the commodity and its factors, or the demand of the commodity and its factors. Are you clear? I am repeating. Demand function is a functional relationship between demand on one hand and other factors, and the factors that influence on the other side. So we have seen that demand is influenced by many factors. Demand is not influenced by a single factor. It is a multi-factor influence. Many factors influence demand for a commodity. We are purchasing our items in our day-to-day life. We go to the market to purchase. We purchase many things. You should understand that demand, our purchase, our demand, our quantity is influenced by many factors that I have written. So now let us move to discuss about that how demand is being influenced are determined by many factors. So the first factor to the first point to influence demand is your price of the commodity. First point. Price of the commodity. Point number one. The first point to influence demand, the first factor to influence demand is your price of the commodity. Now you should understand, when you talk about the price is influencing demand, then definitely you should have in mind that the consumers have the objective. Consumers demand is a part of the consumer. Demand belongs to the side of consumer, and consumer have the objective to get maximum satisfaction. How the consumer will get maximum satisfaction? Very interesting point. How consumer will get maximum satisfaction? Because this is the objective of the consumers, and all are the part of the law of consumption. Demand, it is a part of the consumption theory. We will study about law of demand. It is also a part of the consumption theory. We will study about elastic demand. Everything that is we will study now, actually, it is a part of the consumer theory. So now we have discussed that demand is influenced by price of the commodity. When you go to the market as a consumer, I told you we have the objective, we should get maximum satisfaction. When we go to the market, our mentality is like that. When the price of a commodity is more, we are supposed to purchase less. And when the price of a commodity is less, we are supposed to purchase more. When tomato is costing 20 rupees in the market, we will purchase definitely more of the tomato. When tomato is costing 80 rupees in the market, we are supposed to purchase less of the tomato. This is the logic of the demand and price relationship. But interesting logic. The logic is the relationship is your inverse and opposite, we can say. Obviously, a question comes here. What is the relationship between demand and price of the commodity? And the answer is that it is inverse or it is opposite. So now we have seen the first factor to influence demand is the price of the commodity. And what is the relationship? The relationship between price and demand of the commodity is inverse or opposite. When the price of a commodity rises, obviously the quantity demand of the commodity falls. When the price of a commodity falls, obviously the quantity demand of the commodity rises. Now we have told the inverse relationship. Simply let us go for a hypothetical, some numerical example. Take for example an egg. We go to the market with 30 rupees. Egg is costing 5 rupees in the market. Egg is costing 5 rupees in the market. We go to the market with 30 rupees. Our quantity demand, how many eggs we will purchase? Obviously, we will purchase 6 eggs. We go to the market with 30 rupees. An egg is costing 5 rupees. So, with 30 rupees, we can purchase 6 eggs. Take for example, when you go tomorrow, then the price of egg has been slashed down, has been reduced to 3 rupees. When you go tomorrow to market, take for example, the price of egg falls from 5 to 3. Now with 3 rupees, we can purchase 10 eggs. With 30 rupees, we can purchase 10 eggs. So now what happened? We have seen with the fall in price, our quantity demanded rises. Like that. Again, when you go to the market after 1 or 2 days, if we see the price of the market egg is costing you 7.5, with 30 rupees we can purchase only 4 eggs. Are you clear? When the price of egg is 5 rupees, with 30 rupees in our hand, we can purchase 6 eggs. And the price of the egg falls to 3 rupees tomorrow. With same 30 rupees, we can purchase 10 eggs. After again, we will go to the market. After 1 or 2 days, we notice that the price of the egg rises from 5 to 7.5 or 3 to 7.5. With 7.5 rupees, 7 rupees 50 paise. With 30 rupees, we can purchase only 4 eggs. From the example, it is very clear that with the fall in the price of the commodity, the quantity demand of the item rises. With the rise in the price of the item, commodity, the quantity demanded falls. This is the actual relationship that I am trying to tell you about the demand and price of the commodity. I hope you are being clear. I hope you understood the relationship between demand for the commodity and price of the commodity. So price of the commodity is the basic factor. Price of the commodity is the first factor to influence the demand. Let us go to our second point. That is your price of related goods. Price of related goods. When you talk about price of related goods in economics, it's very interesting. It's very important for you to understand. I'm talking about related goods in economics. You have many questions. You have many questions relating to related goods. In economics, especially, related goods are two types. Remember one thing. In economics, we can study related goods under two heads. One will be your substitutes and one will be your complementary. So we have classified related goods in economics under two heads. One is your substitute, one is your complementary. Let me tell you what do you mean by substitute goods. Substitute goods are those goods which are replaced by each other. Substitute goods, alternative goods. Substitute गुड का मतलब क्या होता है? Alternative goods. एक गुड को रिप्लेस करके हम दूसरा यूज कर सकते हैं. They are known as either or. Either rice or bread. Either ball pen or gel pen, like that. Either tea or coffee. You understood? So, substitute goods means the goods which can be replaced by each other. In place of one good, we can use other goods. That is the meaning of substitute good. When you come to complementary goods are those goods which are jointly consumed. Complementary goods are those goods we combine the goods to satisfy our purpose, to satisfy our need. Remember, complementary goods are those goods when we jointly consume both the goods to satisfy our needs. That is the meaning of complementary goods. We can't take a single good. We can't take a single good in case of a complementary goods. We have to jointly take two goods at the same time to satisfy our need. That is the meaning of complementary goods. Take for example, bike and petrol. Take for example, pen and refill. So this is the example of complementary goods. You need to take both the goods to satisfy the needs. So I hope you are clear about the related goods in economics. That is, one is your substitute, one is your complementary. So you should understand what do you mean by substitute goods, and you should also understand what is the meaning of complementary good. Now it is your time to understand what is the relationship between the price and demand of the substitute good. I have told you that substitute goods are the goods which can be used in place of each other. Alternative goods, tea and coffee. Remember one thing, tea and coffee are the example of substitute good. When you talk about tea and coffee, definitely there are some consumers who are addicted to tea. There are some consumers who are regularly using tea, who are regularly drinking tea. Take for example, the price of tea is 5 rupees and the price of coffee is 10 rupees. Definitely, obviously we know coffee is somehow superior than tea. So we have taken coffee, the price of tea in rupees. Price of tea is 5 rupees, price of coffee is 10 rupees. Now, take for example, before the change in price, tea is consumed by 50% and coffee is consumed by 50%. Before, I'm talking that before the change in price, tea is being consumed by 50% and coffee is being consumed by 50%. Now, take for example, the price of coffee falls. Previously, we have a price of coffee. Initially, the price of coffee is 10 rupees. Now, the price of coffee falls to 7 rupees. People know that when price of coffee falls, obviously what will happen? The persons who are drinking tea persons who are regularly taking tea, some persons will move from tea to coffee, because we have seen there is a fall in the price of coffee. When the price of coffee falls, it will attract some consumers from the group of tea. When the price of coffee falls, it will attract some consumers from tea. Take for example, 10 persons who are drinking tea, they move to coffee. So from tea group there is a -10, in coffee group there is a +10. From tea it's a -10, from coffee it's a +10. When it's minus, it becomes 40. When you add 10 in the coffee group, it becomes 60. So we have seen there is a fall when the price of a substitute goods falls. Its demand rises, but it's the substitute. But this price, the quantity of the tea falls. The quantity of tea falls to 40. Are you clear? I am repeating once again. Tea, price of tea is 5 rupees. Coffee price was 10 rupees. Tea is consumed by 50%. Coffee is consumed by 50%. We have seen, take for example, we have reduced the price of coffee from 10 to 7. So when we reduce the price of coffee, naturally some persons who are taking tea, they will move to coffee. As a result, the demand of the tea will fall, as we have taken 10 consumers to 40, and the demand for coffee will rise. So we can say, when the price of a substitute goods falls, its quantity demanded of the substitute goods also falls. Remember one thing, in case of substitute goods, we are comparing the price and quantity of other. In case of related goods, we are always comparing the price and quantity of the other good. The price of one good with the quantity of other goods. You have to remember, it is very important. In case of related goods, we are comparing always the price of one commodity with the quantity of other commodity. Take for example, we have seen that there is a fall in the price of coffee. So you should study what is the effect of fall in the price of coffee on the demand of the tea. And now the conclusion is that when the price of coffee falls, demand for tea falls. So what is the relation over here? The relation is positive. When the price of one good falls, the demand of other good falls. So in course of our time, we will study one concept that is known as your elasticity of demand. When you go to elasticity of demand, we will also study the concept of cross elasticity of demand. In cross elasticity of demand, we will particularly study about the relationship between substitute good, and then we will write that the cross elasticity of demand is positive. Positive in the sense, in the two variables, that price and commodity, tea and coffee, when the price of one variable goes down, the quantity demand of the other variable also goes down. Take for example, when the price of coffee falls, the price of tea, the demand of the tea falls. This is the meaning of your substitute good. When you come to next part, your complementary goods. Complementary goods are those goods I told you which can be jointly consumed. I told you about the example of bike and petrol. Take for example, you talk about bike and petrol. Let us talk about the price of bike is 70,000 and the demand for petrol is 70,000 liter. Bike and petrol, example of complementary goods. Bikes, the price of bike is 70,000 rupees and the price of the demand of petrol is how much? 7,000 liters. When the price of bike slashed down to 60,000, this is the price, this is the quantity. When the price of bike falls from 70 to 60,000, obviously we will increase the demand of bike. You understand very clearly. I am telling that bike and petrol are complementary goods. The price of bike is initially 7,000 rupees. With the 7,000 rupees in the market, how much liters of petrol we demand? We demand 7,000 liters of petrol. Take for example, the price of bike falls from 70 to 60,000. Obviously, when the price of bike falls, there will be increase in the demand of bike. When there is an increase in the demand of bike, obviously the demand for petrol will also rise. So, we can expect that the demand for petrol will go to it. So this is the explanation about your complementary goods, that the relationship between your bike and petrol. So we have discussed about the relationship of price with its related goods. I am repeating, related goods are two types. One is your substitute, one is your complementary goods. Substitute goods are those goods which can be replaced by each other, and complementary goods are those goods which can be demanded jointly. In case of substitute goods, the relationship between price of a commodity and the demand of other is positive, and in case of complementary goods, the relationship between the price of a commodity and the quantity of the other is your negative. This is the discussion about your price of related goods. We will discuss about the other points. Coming down to discuss about other determinants of demand, let us talk about why for income of the consumers. So why stands for income of the consumer. When you talk about income of the consumer, it's very simple to understand that normally we purchase more with more income and we purchase less with less income. It means our capacity to purchase, our capacity of demand, our capacity of purchase depends on the income, how much we get. This is the main important factor that determines demand. When you go to the market, it depends the quantity of the commodity, the purchase of the commodity depends on the income of the consumer. Obviously, we can say when a consumer have high income, his demand will be also high. When a consumer have low income, their demand will be also low. So we can say there is a positive relationship between income of the consumer and the demand of the commodity. Income, persons with rich income can have more demand. Persons with low income can have less demand. It is very quite natural and obvious. You can also very easily understand that individuals who possess more income, individuals who have larger income, their demand is definitely more. And individuals who have less income, individuals who are known as poor persons, their demand is less. This is the positive relationship between income of the consumer and demand of the commodity. When income rises, demand also rises. When income falls, demand also falls. So now the answer is that the relationship between income of the consumer and demand for the commodity is positive, whereas the relationship between price of the commodity and demand for the commodity is inverse. This is your point number 3. Next point, we will go to your T. T stands for taste and preference. Nowadays, we are living in a dynamic society. Taste and preference plays an important role. Everything depends on the taste and preference. So, when we are living in a society, then actually our taste and preference, the pattern of taste and preference also determine the demand for the commodity. The demand for the commodity depends on the taste and preference of a consumer. When we shift our taste and preference favorably in case of a commodity, obviously demand will be high. You understand? When we change our pattern, when we favorably change, when we positively change our taste pattern, when we positively change our taste pattern, demand for the commodity is positive. When we negatively change our taste pattern, demand for the commodity is negative. हम एक कमोडिटी को, हम एक गुड्स को अगर चाहते हैं, ज्यादा से लाइक करते हैं, ऑब्वियसली उसका डिमांड ज्यादा रहेगा. अगर हम उसका कमोडिटी को नहीं चाहते हैं, डेफिनेटली उसका डिमांड ज्यादा लो रहेगा या कम रहेगा. दिस इज द मीनिंग ऑफ taste and preference linked to the demand. Coming back to other points, which your population. Population is one more example for your India, country like India. It's an important variable that determines the demand, and it is very simple and clear to understand that when population of a country rises, obviously demand for the commodity will also rise. When the population of a country rises, demand for the commodity also rises. In the sense, a population needs to survive. Population needs basic needs like food, clothing, shelter to survive. Think about other parts, think about other commodity, think about other items. They will be definitely needed. But the basic part is that a person need to survive. He needs food, clothing, and shelter. More population means more food, more clothing, more shelter. Less population means less food, less clothing, less shelter, and some other demands. We can't only survive with food, basic and shelter. In nowadays, we need many things. We are living in a completely changed society, dynamic society, new society. People are changing their habits. People are changing their customs. So we require much demand. We require new items. Now the market is changing. So accordingly, when the population of a country changes, demand of the country also changes. When with more population, when population rises, demand also rises. When population falls, demand also falls. This is the relationship between your population and demand for the commodity. P for, you can write that P for your population. After population, we will discuss about your D. D for demonstration effects. D for demonstration effect. First of all, you should understand what is the meaning of demonstration effect. Demonstration effect will allow you to purchase some item, to purchase some commodity when you follow others. When people demand something by following others. When you see, for example, when you see the smartphone, Apple phone of a commodity person, we like him, we like the product, we follow his pattern. That is called demonstration effect. Nowadays, we are living in a purely in a society where the modern things are coming very important. So when you see the Apple phone have something, then we are accustomed, we are supposed to have something, we expect to have something like that. That is known as your demonstration effect. Demonstration effect means when we see something of a person and when we follow that commodity, when we follow that person to purchase that commodity, it is called your demonstration effect. And when we follow that, when we do that, demand for the commodity will be more. When demonstration effect will be more, demand for the commodity will be also more. When demonstration effect will be less, demand for the commodity will be also less. This is the point of discussion between your demonstration effect, that is the important factor that determines about your demand for the commodity. Regarding other factors, let me write that future expectation of price change. This is one of the important factors nowadays. Future expectation of price change. Very simple point to understand. Future expectation of price change. Price are two types we will discuss over here. One is your present price, one is your future price. The price you are purchasing now, that is called your present price. The price you expect in future, that is called your future price. You understood? The price you purchase now, that is called present price. The price you are supposed to pay in future, that is called future price. Sometimes we predict, sometimes we expect some change in price. Sometimes we expect, sometimes we think some change in price. The change may be plus, the change may be minus. You understood? The change may be plus, the change may be minus. When you expect, when you think, जब आप सोचते हैं कि फ्यूचर में प्राइस ज्यादा होगा, then it is your positive. Then the price will change, the price will rise. When you think price नीचे रहेगा, so this is your negative change like that. This is a negative trend, we can say like that. So take for example, I'm giving an example. Take for example, the price of a commodity at present, the present price is low. Current price is low. In future, you expect the price of the same commodity will rise. In future, you expect, you think the price of the commodity will rise. What will happen? What will happen to demand for now? I'm telling, take for example, now we have a current price. And now we hope that in future, the price of the commodity will rise. The price of the commodity will rise. So when you expect that the price of a commodity will rise in future, at present your demand will be more. At present you will stock the commodity. At present you will purchase more of the commodity. You understood? Now you are purchasing at one price. You expect after 15 days or after 1 month the price will rise. So what will be your demand pattern? Now you will increase your demand. Now you will purchase more, because if you are not purchasing more now, then after 15 days you have to purchase the commodity at more price. Now, if you are not purchasing the commodity, after 15 days, after 1 month, you will purchase the same commodity at higher price. And exactly like that, if you expect the price will fall in future, if you expect that the price will fall in future, currently you will consume less, currently you will purchase less, because after 15 days you are expecting the price will fall. So you will take the advantage, of low price after 15 days. That is why now you will purchase less. So this is the interesting chemistry between that your future expectation of price change. Very interesting relation exists. This is one more important point. This is not present, but this is future. This is one more important point that determines the demand for the commodity. Accordingly, according to the future expectation, demand also changes. We have seen many points. Not a single point determines the demand. There are many points that determine the demand for the commodity. One more point we can say. Number of buyers in the market. It's a very simple point. When you go to the market, if there are large number of buyers, demand will be more. When there will be less number of buyers, demand will be less. When you expect much number of buyers, the demand will be more. When you expect less number of buyers, the demand will be less. So this is one more point that also affect the demand for the commodity. That is your number of buyer. When you go to the market, the demand for the commodity depends on the number of buyers. The situation, the price of the commodity depends how many buyers are going to the market. The climate also depends. So on that basis, when there will be more number of buyers in the market, obviously demand will be more. And when there will be less number of buyers, there will be low demand in the market. So you have seen that number of buyers is also one of the important factor that also determines the demand for the commodity. So we have discussed many points. We will make our conclusion over here. We will discuss the last point of that. That is your climate. Climatic pattern, climate and weather. Climate and weather will also determine the level of demand of a commodity. Take for example, now we are going with summer season. In the summer time, you would like to have more cold drinks. In summer times, we have like to have more cold drinks, and we used to like to wear your cotton garments. Obviously, we can say that in summer times, in summer season, there will be more demand for cold drinks and your cotton garments. But in winter season, less people likes your cold drinks. Less people likes your cotton garments. In winter season, when the climate changes from summer to winter, there will be more demand for hot drinks. There will be more demand for coffee and tea. There will be more demand for your woolen garments. You understood? In summer, you like cool drinks and with cotton textile. You are used to wear cotton garments. When the time changes, when the season changes from your summer to winter, then in winter you would like to have more hot drinks like your coffee and tea, and you would like to have your woolen garments in place of your cotton garments. So this is the change in time, this is change in climate that also determines your consumption pattern, that also determines your demand of the commodity. So you can say climate and weather also determines your level of demand. Let me write the 2 points we have discussed. One, we have discussed about your price of the commodity, PX, price of the commodity, and we have discussed about price of related goods. Let's have a quick look about the points that we have discussed. We will discuss that very quickly. We will discuss about the points that we have discussed for a long time. Demand is influenced First of all, we have understood what is demand. Demand simply means desire for a commodity backed by willingness to pay and capacity to pay. Here, that two things are important. A person doesn't have capacity to pay, he is having willingness to pay, demand cannot be fulfilled. A person having willingness to pay but capacity to pay is not there, demand cannot be fulfilled. So a person, if he want to fulfill his demand, must have willingness to pay and capacity to pay. You understood? Chalo. Now, after demand, we have discussed about demand function. What is demand function? Demand function is a functional relationship between demand and its factors, demand and its determinants. What are the factors that determine demand? So the demand और उनके factors के बीच जो relations रहता है, the relations is known as your demand function. And we've seen that what are the factors that actually influence the demand of the commodity. We have seen the first point, your price of the commodity, and the answer is that the relationship between price of the commodity and demand is your negative or inverse. I've gone with the example of egg. Simply, I explained about how the price of a commodity determines the demand. And now you remember very surely, very simply, the relationship between price and quantity demanded or demand is your inverse. Price and demand of the same commodity is your inverse or negative relation. Next, we will discuss about price of related goods. Related goods are two types. One is your substitute goods, one is your complementary goods. Substitute goods are those goods which can be replaced by each other, either or. Complementary goods are those goods which are jointly consumed. When you consume two items at one time to fulfill your demand, bike and petrol, you can't drive a bike without petrol. Petrol remains also useless without bike. So when you need two things at one time, at a single time, that is called your complementary goods. And I told you that the relation of price of the commodity, remember, very interesting point I'm telling you. While you are studying about the price of related goods, you should very clearly remember that here you are comparing the price of the commodity with the quantity of other commodity. You are not comparing the price of the commodity with the quantity of that commodity. First of all, be clear in the mind that when you are discussing about related goods, there are two goods. Be clear in the mind, when you are talking about related goods, there will be obviously two goods. So when you are discussing about two goods, here we are not talking about price of that price of the good and quantity of that good. Not. We are talking about price of one good with quantity of other good. I've given the example, tea and coffee example. Tea and coffee are substitute goods. I have taken tea, the price of tea is 5 rupees. I have taken the price of coffee is 10 rupees. Tea is consumed by 50%, coffee is also consumed by 50%. Take for example, 50 लोग 50 लोग टी यूज करते हैं और 50 लोग कॉफी यूज करते हैं. I put a simple change over here. Take for example, the price of coffee falls from 10 to 7 rupees. कॉफी का प्राइस क्या हुआ? 10 to 7 rupees हो गया. So we have seen a fall in price of the one commodity. A fall in price of one commodity. Then what will happen? A fall in price of coffee will attract the customers of tea. A fall in price of coffee will attract the customers of tea. So पहले से टी का कस्टमर्स कितना है? 50 है. कॉफी का कस्टमर्स कितना है? 50 है. So टी का जो 50 कस्टमर्स है, उनमें से 5 या 10 या 15 कस्टमर टी को छोड़ के कॉफी को शिफ्ट करेंगे. तो क्या होता है ना, कॉफी का डिमांड बढ़ता है और टी का डिमांड कम हो जाता है. सो हम यहाँ पे क्या स्टडी करते हैं? कॉफी का प्राइस कम हुआ तो टी का डिमांड क्या हुआ? वी आर नॉट स्टडिंग कॉफी का प्राइस क्या हुआ और कॉफी का डिमांड क्या हुआ. वी आर स्टडिंग कॉफी का प्राइस क्या हुआ और टी का डिमांड क्या हुआ. सो व्हाट वी हैव सीन, कॉफी का प्राइस कम हो गया और टी का डिमांड भी कम हो गया. सो दोनों वेरिएबल दे मूव इन सेम डायरेक्शन. एक कमा तो दूसरा भी कमा. So that relation is called as your positive. I'm telling. In case of substitute good, the relationship is known as your positive. And in case of complementary good, the relation is known as negative. Take for example, bike and petrol. Bike and petrol. Bike का cost कुछ ऐसा है 70,000. 70,000 बाइक में प्राइस में हम entirely हम डिमांड करते हैं 7,000 लीटर्स पेट्रोल. when the price of bike is 70 rupees, I am talking about total demand. We demand 70,000 liters of petrol all over Ganjam. When the price of bike falls from 70,000 to 60,000, तो बाइक का प्राइस अभी क्या हुआ, घट गया, कम हो गया. तो बाइक का प्राइस कम होने से बाइक का डिमांड ज्यादा हो जाएगा. When the price of a bike falls, obviously बाइक का डिमांड ज्यादा हो जाएगा. सो बाइक का डिमांड ज्यादा होगा तो पेट्रोल का डिमांड क्या रहेगा, पेट्रोल का डिमांड भी ज्यादा. तो इसमें क्या हुआ, बाइक का प्राइस कम हुआ तो पेट्रोल का डिमांड ज्यादा हुआ. सो द रिलेशन इज इनवर्स और नेगेटिव. दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट यू टू understand. I know you understand what is substitute, what is complementary, but for you it is also important to understand what is the relation of there. We have also studied about income of the consumer. It's very straight exam, very straight condition. When income will rise, your demand will also rise. When income will fall, demand will also fall. And we have also tested about taste and preference. Taste and preference will also determine the demand for the commodity. When the taste will favorably move, the demand for the commodity will rise. When taste will not move, when taste will move negatively, the demand will fall. When population will rise, demand will also rise. When population will fall, your demand will also fall. Demonstration effect, when somebody follow the pattern of the consumption of others, it is called demonstration effect. Demonstration effect ज्यादा रहेगा तो demand ज्यादा रहेगा. Demonstration effect कम रहेगा तो demand भी कम रहेगा. Future expectation, I have told you, when you expect प्राइस राइज इन फ्यूचर तो अभी डिमांड ज्यादा होगा. अगर आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं प्राइस कम होगा फ्यूचर में तो अभी डिमांड कम रहेगा. नंबर ऑफ बायर्स, when there will be more buyers, there will be more demand. When there will be less buyer, there will be less demand. And last point is your climate and weather. So the demand pattern changes depending on the climate and weather. Demand changes on summer, demand changes on winter, so like the demand changes. So we have seen that demand is a multi-valued function. Demand is not a single valued function. Demand is influenced, demand is determined by many factors. So this is the entire discussion of the concept that is demand and its factors, or demand and its determinant, which is an important part of the theory of consumption. Thank you very much.